Alright, hey guys, and welcome to my review of Ambulance. I'll make this basically a quick one. This is a very intense, action-packed film with Danny Sharp and Will Sharp. It's a very Michael Bay-esque film. The moment you start watching this, you don't even need to know it's directed by Michael Bay for you to feel that it's Michael Bay. Basically hot girls, amazing cars, really crazy action scenes with a lot of explosion. That's Michael Bay, and that's exactly what we got in this. Is it a really good film? No, the story kind of falls short, but it did have its moments. Story basically is about Will Sharp who needs to get money to help his family. They need to go about an operation. He needs to save his wife basically, and he can't really afford it, despite having served in the military for so many years. He goes to his brother, his stepbrother Danny Sharp, who's actually a bank robber, completely Jekyll and Hyde sort of brothers. And Danny Sharp has a plan. He tells Will, "I got a job for you. We're gonna rob this bank." Will is like, "Yeah, sure, okay," and they're gonna try to rob this bank. And then Cam Thompson is basically this nurse who's working in an ambulance. The ambulance drivers go into the bank that is being robbed to try to pick up a police officer who is in need of help, who has been shot. So Danny Sharp and Will Sharp hijack the ambulance, get rid of the driver. Cam Thompson and the officers and Officer Zach end up in the back of the ambulance, and Danny Sharp and Will Sharp are aware of their presence and allow them to continue to perform whatever it is they have to go through to keep Officer Zach alive. So Cam Thompson is basically some sort of a you know what do you call this? Both a hostage and leverage for Danny Sharp and Will Sharp to use if they ever need to, when the police actually manage to do catch them, actually manage to catch them if they ever do. And they also use Officer Zack, of course, as possible leverage, although Officer Zack is close to dying for most of the film. And we have an FBI agent that's completely useless. Most of the investigation is done by Captain Monroe of the police department, who is not really the most exciting character. Good actor, but he doesn't really do much. Like, the police department in this film is basically just there as observers. They kind of just chase the ambulance for 2 hours in this film. I think 1.5 maybe. Just basically chasing them around town, and they do get to show us a bunch of cool, action sequences where the ambulance tries different ways to escape. Being hunted down by the police department. They do try some different methods to try to escape. They have some cool chase scenes. They also have some intense shooting scenes. They have a helicopter. I don't know. There's one moment, very strange moment, where the patrol helicopter that has been following them all of a sudden dips down all the way to, like, I don't know, like a 10 to 20 meter range to try to shoot at them. It's so strange. Like, why would you get so close in range of the ambulance and the ground, especially considering you can just do the same thing from the air and you'll have, a major high ground advantage, right? Like, give it up, Anakin. I have the high ground. You could have just done that. But no, the ambulance, I mean, the helicopter actually goes very, very close to the ambulance at one scene to try to shoot them. I don't know, maybe just to get a cool shot of the action a little bit closer to the enemy. And yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is absolutely insane as Danny Sharp, definitely deranged in some way. And Will Sharp is trying to sort of be the sane character in the story, but it turns out he's just really desperate for the money and is willing to do anything and ends up siding Danny Sharp towards the end. They also have this cool scene where they try to, call the some mafia to for help, so they can create a diversion by creating similar looking ambulances. They even repaint the ambulance at some point. They try a bunch of methods to try to escape the police department, but I think the movie made it quite clear to us that there's really no escape. You can only delay your escape unless you really want to ditch the money and then probably go off on foot somewhere, which would still be a risk to you considering the police already know what you look like. They already have your facial IDs, and they probably have every other ID they need of you online, which means that even if you do manage to escape, I'm sure you can't really leave the island or the country or anywhere for that matter, which is why I found it really weird that they thought they could just escape with the money and then they'll be safe. I'm not really sure how you I know how they think it works, but maybe 20 years ago you could survive with a bag of cash, but today it's not really the same case. There's a lot of places that require you to use digital identification, at which point you'll already be arrested, unless of course you can pay someone to absolutely fake all that information, create some sort of a digital fake ID of you, a fake identification online in digital, and then remap your ID to that. That is possible theoretically, but it'll obviously mismatch with their existing records, and then they will know, like, wait a minute, we have another guy that looks exactly like Danny Sharp, that matches Danny Sharp's fingerprint, but it's not Danny Sharp. Looks like he clearly faked his ID. I think that would be the exact realistic scenario. unless they can also replace the police database or something. Yeah, it's all possible and theoretical, but I'm not really sure how they plan to do it because they didn't discuss any of that. It was just basically about these two guys, insane guys, escaping on an ambulance with a nurse and a dying police officer in the back. So towards the very end of the film, Will Sharp actually gets to redeem his character, where he and Danny Sharp do meet their demise, but with Officer Zack actually claiming that Will Sharp actually saved his life. So yeah, that's basically the gist of the film. I guess it's just a really cool, intense action film. Let's see, 6.1 in IMDb. Not bad. It's pretty interesting. But I am going to pull up my rating, and I think it's a fair rating for me. It's 3 out of 10. I think it's a good weekend film if you just want something intense and action packed. But quite frankly, sometimes the scenes and the pacing are just too monotonous. Like you get it, boom, boom, pow, boom, boom, pow, boom, boom, pow. That's basically how it goes. But if you keep doing the same thing, it actually turns out boring. Like, would I dare say that? Like, imagine having a film full of just explosions, right? It will be boring. Like in this one, they did actually have some scenes where the characters try to build some form of a character with each other. They sort of try to talk to each other and build a relationship and tell each other that, you're my brother, you're my family, we gotta do it this way, gotta do it that way. They question some motives, but it really, it doesn't go anywhere. Like all of that character building and development doesn't really, it's not really utilized in any way because in the end they both are just like, this is we keep going, nothing can stop us, we're like a locomotive or something, they say something like that, and they just keep riding and riding until eventually they just get caught as expected from the beginning of the film. So yeah, I like the methods that they try to show, that they can do all these ways to try to cover up the tracks in the ambulance, but they're not really escaping from the police department, despite them actually showing the police department in some form of a negative light. To some extent, they actually showed that the police department can get outrun by these these criminals. The FBI agent can be a complete dork or whatever. I don't know really what they were going for there. They're trying to show that the FBI agent is just not that effective or trustable. The police captain is sort of this alpha male macho that dominates the scene, and then all of a sudden they do need to have the help of the guy who actually uses his brains. Sort of your typical sort of nerd versus macho guy kind of just this I don't know what do you even call it, macho battle on scene or whatever, but it's not that cool, it's not that interesting anymore. It's not, it's not the time where hot girls and fast cars are enough for a good movie. you know we need to actually have something more, something intelligent, and we didn't really get that from this film. But Jake Gyllenhaal is absolutely amazing. I never knew Yaya Abdul is actually such a good actor too, but I really wish that we had a better story in this film, and maybe more, something more interesting, something that showed you why these Sharp brothers are different from all the other criminals. But instead it was just an ordinary story of just these two guys trying to escape with a bag of money in their ambulance, being the last two survivors of their squad that tried to rob a bank. And they have this nurse in the back of the ambulance who did exactly what's expected. She used some kind of a phone that she took from the in a pocket of the police officer, which was not checked, and just used that phone to communicate to Captain Monroe from inside the ambulance, which is on, it's like an obvious hack, right? If your victim can communicate with people outside, it's going to be so easy for them to figure out a plan, because you have an entire squad of brains outside, that know that they now have someone on the inside who can give them information, and vice versa. So yeah, I think my rating is pretty fair. I did think this through a little bit more than I should, and that's probably all it's gonna be. So, will I ever watch this again? Highly unlikely. Should you ever watch this? As I said, probably a weekend flick just to get some adrenaline pumping, and then I guess maybe watch Transformers, because that's just by far the best Michael Bay movie ever made. And that's it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.